So today I'm going to share with you an incredibly simple golf tip which recently had some incredible results with a student of mine to help them hit their irons more solid, and it also helped them with their driver as well. So how many times have you played golf and your iron game is absolutely phenomenal? Everything just is out the center of the golf club, the flight is good, the result is good, but you're struggling with the driver from the tee. And maybe next time you go out, the driver's performing exactly as you want it to, long and straight, but the iron game isn't quite there. And it's really difficult to get that balance where the tee shots and the iron play are exactly the same. So before we get started in this video, just drop down into the comments box and just let me know where you are with your game. Are you a better iron player or are you a better driver player? It'd be interesting to get your thoughts on that. And what we're going to do in this particular video is give you a really simple tip which can help you both with the iron clubs and with the driver, but there is going to be a slight difference in how we perform the drill. Now, this lesson came about because of a recent lesson that I gave at the academy. A new student of mine came in and he was struggling with the ball striking. He explained that he was not feeling particularly comfortable with the golf swing. It felt a little bit tight and restricted, and he was struggling with strike and struggling with consistency. And we gave him a really simple concept. We used a bit of technology to help us establish what was going on. We saw some incredible results, and we're going to share with you exactly what we did. So the golfer was struggling in terms of finding the center of the golf club consistently. A lot of the shots they were hitting were coming from a little bit low in the club face, didn't feel great, ball flight wasn't as high as we'd like, and the distance wasn't as we'd like. Now, when we looked at this on camera, this swing, we tended to see that this golfer had set a little bit too much weight on their trail leg setup, so it looked as if they were leaning a little bit onto their trail side. Now, as they made a backswing, they tended to move a little bit further into their trail side, so a little bit of a lateral movement, not a huge amount. And as they started the downswing, they started to make a little bit of a movement where the hips moved towards the target, but the head got stuck behind the golf ball, and that made it very difficult for them to hit down on the golf ball. Now, what we did is I gave this golfer what I call the 60-60-100 drill. Now, I've done a video on this in the past, maybe some 18 months ago, maybe even 2 years ago. And I used technology to help us establish what was happening. So what did I say? What did I ask this golfer to do? Well, I asked them to take a setup with their 7-iron. I asked them to set, using their hips and their legs, to set 60% of their weight on their lead side. So the feeling that we were just putting a little bit more pressure through that lead leg. I asked them in the backswing to feel like they kept 60% of that pressure on that lead side. And then when they finished the golf swing, I very simply wanted 100% of pressure on that lead leg. So we started at 60, top of the golf swing was 60, follow through was 60. That was all I asked this golfer to do. What we did is I said, hit a couple of shots, and what did we say? Well, let me go ahead and just demonstrate what that would look like. Got myself, say, a mid-iron here, 7-iron. So weight on the lead side, feeling 60%. And then finishing with 100. So as soon as I gave this concept, this tip to the golfer, they started to strike the ball better. Now, I used TrackMan and we could see that the ball speed was increasing, the ball was coming off the face quicker, it was flying further. And the golfer communicated to me that the strike felt better, but they said that's a little strange that I'm keeping my weight on my lead side as I make my golf swing. Now, I use body track in my coaching bait. It's a little pressure mapping device. It tells me kind of what a golfer's doing relative to the ground and how they're pushing on the ground. We use that to track some shots. And what you can see over here in the corner is an image from that body track. What was actually happening was the golfer was exactly as we wanted them to do, setting up with a little bit more weight on that lead side. That was what I wanted them to do. It wasn't quite 60, but it was pretty good. And as they made a backswing, the pressure, so what they were doing with their feet, moved to the trail side. It moved under the trail leg as that golfer was making the backswing. And it got to around about 70% of the pressure under that trail side as they got to the top. Then they started down, the weight moved back to the lead hand side, and they went through, and it didn't finish 100, it finished somewhere in the 90s. And as we explained what was happening with the pressure, there was a little bit of confusion. It was, the golfer was kind of thinking, well, that's not what I was trying to do. I was trying to keep my weight on my left side, but I didn't actually move it onto the right. And kind of what I had to explain then was what we saw on the body track, what was actually happening was exactly what we needed to happen. The concept was very different. The concept was a feeling, an idea, something that they could take to the golf course. It wasn't the reality. Because whilst I was asking them to keep their weight on that lead side, when we're trying to move a golf club around our body and it's got some speed and we're trying to energize it, we are using the ground to get that energy. So even though the golfer was trying to feel like they kept 60% of the lead side, when they were swinging the club back, there was pressure moving in the feet. And that's almost going to happen in every golf swing. It's almost incredibly difficult to put any speed in this club without pushing on the ground in some way. So the 60-60-100 drill is just one of the best drills I've come across to get someone to do the right thing. We are not keeping 60% of our weight on our lead side, but the concept is to do that, the thought process to do that. And it's one of those really difficult things to get a head around, that what we're trying to do isn't actually correct. We're not, we're trying to keep 60% of weight here, which is not really what we see, but it actually helps us do the right thing. What we'd love every golfer to do, and what we'd love you to do, is actually shift pressure into that trail side. Unfortunately, this golfer was actually trying to move their weight over onto this back leg, because in the past they'd been told to move the weight into the back leg, but what happened is it got them stuck behind the golf ball, and then it made it very difficult to get back in front of the golf ball. So if you're struggling with ball striking, the golfer I've described in this video, if that sounds like you, 60, 60, 100 is a great thing for you to take straight to the golf course. It doesn't mean it will happen, because you will most likely still shift your pressure, but it will help you hit the golf ball better with those iron clubs. How does that translate to the driver? Well, what do we want with the driver? We don't really want this kind of negative downward attack angle creating a divot like we've just got in that little instance there. So what we did with the driver is we just gave them a very, very simple drill again. With the driver, as that ball is teed up, we would ideally like the golf club to be traveling upwards as it hits the ball versus downwards with an iron. So a little bit of lateral movement with the driver is not that costly. It's not really going to do you too much damage. It actually just kind of encourages to hit up on the ball. So what we did with the golfer with the driver is I very simply got them to take a starting position. So just make sure I'm in the right spot there. Okay. And we took a wedge. This is my 60-degree wedge, and I placed it just under the trail heel. Now at setup, I wanted this golfer to be pretty 50-50, pretty balanced between both feet. And without really moving anything other than the trail heel, I wanted them to just let that club just drop to the floor a little bit. So you can see how as I lift my heel, the grip is just getting a little closer to the ground. And what I wanted them to do in the early part of their golf swing, so before the club reached around about this point here, I wanted them to push down on the heel and raise the grip up, which would look a little bit like this. So you can see how as I've pushed down, the grip has raised up. And what this was really doing is it was actually helping this golfer start to build that pressure under that right side earlier with the driver. Because what we really didn't want was this golfer to go away and sort of feel like 60% with the driver, keep it there, keep on top of the ball, and have these very, very downward attack angles, giving them very low drives, or possibly even catching the top of the club and having it pop up into the sky. So we had them take a setup, and the key thing here was when we lifted that heel up, we didn't move the body. I just wanted that heel to lift a little bit, let the grip go down to the ground a little, and then as we started the golf swing, we really feel like we're pushing down. That starts to mean that we're pressurizing that trail side. And it doesn't really matter with the driver if we've got a little bit of shift. If we start to move our weight a little bit into that trail side, because the ball is teed up, it actually works quite well. So hitting shots like this is a little bit strange, but take an address, heel goes in the air, grip gets a little closer to the ground, and as we make our swing, we start by pushing that grip down. And with that little drill, you're able to pretty much make full golf swings at full speed, but there's a little bit of awareness there from the wedge, which helps me with the driver get that pressure moving really early, because I can absolutely guarantee you that the best drivers of the golf ball that you see on TV, and probably that you see at your golf club, will have a very early pressure shift into that trail side. If you don't, you can get away with it with the wedges, with the irons. You can actually still hit down and strike the ball well. With the driver, it's a little bit more costly. So 60, 60, 100 is a great drill to get you striking the golf ball better when the ball is on the ground. As soon as you tee it up with the big stick, with the driver, try that extra little drill there. It's going to give you a great sensation of how to start the golf swing, and you're going to be in a place where you're hitting down with the irons, up with the driver, and you're going to be able to go on the golf course and have both of those parts of your game firing on all cylinders, and that's a great way to shoot lower scores. Thanks for watching. Usual stuff is down below. You've got the comments box down there. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this video. There's a like button, and that over there is the subscribe button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, I would love you to go ahead and click that. It is absolutely free, and I really hope these videos can help you play some better golf. Thanks for watching.